What's up, ladies and gents in Cyberland? This is Chris coming to you with another video for RGMF. And today I'm going to be reviewing an album from, my favorite band, of course. And this album is the one that put them on the map in regards to the public. Sold, I think, over 20 million copies, I think, now. And it took the public by storm with them and their antics. I'm talking about Green Day's Dookie. So, Dookie for me was not an album I first heard. I never had known Green Day through Dookie. I never heard any songs from Dookie when I first got into the band. I didn't know the whole background with them in this album. Because again, first I heard Nimrod and then Insomniac, and of course Insomniac was my favorite album. And I remember when I was going to the comic book store, and Amazing Comics, when it was a lot bigger than what it is now. And I went to Target and I picked it up. Luckily, back then, when places had albums, they had them. You didn't have to worry about going there and they didn't have the stuff in stock. Back then, CDs they kept in stock. So, went to Target, went to the comic book store, and rode my bike home and started listening to the album. And at first I was like, okay, it's cool. It's not like Insomniac or Nimrod. It's a lot different. I didn't, of course, looking back on it now, it's one of those things where we're like, yeah, I mean, it was a whole different entity. And I got through Burnout, Having a Blast, and Chump. Longview at the time I didn't really care for because I was so used to, when I got into rock music, I was so used to the fast stuff. And I know it's kind of funny because there is one song I think on Nimrod that was kind of slowed down too, but it is what it is. And then Welcome to Paradise really got my attention. What I really liked about Welcome to Paradise was not so much I think it was the beginning when the song kicks in and the whole band comes in after you hear the guitar riff, but then also it's not the outro, it's what's that term we use for it's the build up back into the chorus, I guess you could say, like after the second time the chorus is sung, then it goes into this little groove with Mike playing the bass, and then gradually the guitar, like two different sets of guitars come in. But I like how that it's all playing and stuff. It was really cool. It's one of my favorite parts about that album. I was like, okay, and then I hear Pulling Teeth. I was like, okay, cool. This is a pretty chill song. And then when I heard Basket Case, I was like, oh, okay. That song struck a chord with me real quick, and I think it was because not just the lyrics, I think it was the palm muting. The palm muting for the beat when the song starts out, just playing that was just really got my attention. And you don't hear any bass or drums yet. Trey does hit the cymbal a little bit, but that's what got my attention. That's where I was just like, okay, this is another album I'm really going to enjoy. Not to say any of the other songs beforehand I didn't, but Welcome to Paradise had its moments, but it wasn't the song that really pulled me into the album just yet. But it was Basket Case. Then I hear She, and I'm like, okay, she's cool, Sassafras Roots, it was cool. And then When I Come Around was another one that really got my attention behind Basket Case because of the groove of it. Coming Clean was just a song. I know it has whole thing about people coming out sexuality. I know that's the connotation behind it now, or maybe it was during that time. To me, it was just another song. I didn't really think too much. I didn't think that deep into it, and even to this day, I listen to it. I'm like, it is. If that's what it is. But to me, it's just. To me, when I listen to it, I always got not being, in school, high school at the time. To me, that song felt like not being what your parents want you to be, I guess you could say, or not meeting their standards. And I'm not knocking my mom or my family. It's just you have a lot of stuff going on. You think you're not meeting where you should be. Emenius, Sleepus. To that's like one of my top 5. But to me, it's just like I've never been able to really kind of grab what that song too much is. To me, it's just think I'm sick and I want to go home. That's all that comes into mind. I just like the groove of it. That's one of my top 5. In the end is not really a song I care too much for compared to the rest of the album. I get what the point of the song was. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't grab me like the rest of the album does. And of course, for a long time, I didn't really care for Longview or In the End or really Having a Blast or Chump either. And now that I'm, over time, I have more respect for those songs. That I like them just as much as the rest of the album. Except In the End. In the End, I'll listen to it, but it's not a song where I'm just like, that's the song I go to when I listen to Dookie. Absolutely not. And then F.O.D, which stands for Fuck Off and Die. When I first heard that, I was like, what is this? Like, you had guitars the whole time, and now all of a sudden you have, like, how do you have just when I first started, I was like, how do you just have acoustic? Where in young mind, you're not thinking too much into. You're just like, well, we got guitars, distortion. Where's all that? And then, of course, within like after a minute, boom, you get that full blown distortion guitars. I'm like, okay, well, my mistake. Nice. And then the lyrics too were just for me. I love the lyrics to that song. So with Dookie, I think to this day, I think a lot of people really hold it in high regard because whatever was going on with them, they related to it. But also it was something different at the time because, mind you, Kurt Cobain had just kind of passed away and there was a void, and grunge was kind of, I think grunge was marketed too much, and I think people were looking for something new. And I think not just with Green Day, but with Offspring and Rancid and NoFX, even though they've been around for a while, and a lot of the punk bands during that time, and Pennywise, I think Green Day kind of kicked in the door with that, and then when they opened with Dookie, then more of the punk scenes were able to come in, and I think that's what's kind of jacked up too, because Offspring got shit later for Ixnay on the Hombre, but it was Rancid, getting shit, and was, and I don't know, because I was a young kid at the time. I don't really know the whole background of how much drama was going on with the bands, but I kind of feel like, was it just Dookie was it just Green Day because they sold the most out of all those bands, or was it because they were the ones that got the most airplay, or or was it because they were the most on television, hypothetically, for videos and stuff? Because all the albums that came out by each one of the bands I named were just superb. They were great albums. They didn't sell. Smash sold almost as much as Dookie. It was under it, but for independent, it sold a lot. So it's one of my. I put it in my top 5 for all their album catalog. Of course, I'm not going to like it more than Insomniac but you know what? It's kind of hard because sometimes I like it better than Nimrod, but then sometimes I like Nimrod better than Dookie. So I think it just depends on my mood for the day. But I listen to as much as the rest of the stuff that I have by them. So for my top 5, it's going to be Basket Case, Welcome to Paradise, When I Come Around, Emenius, Sleepus, and F.O.D. Those are my top 5 songs. In regards to my rating, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 yes sirs. Again, there's not a song I don't like on the album. It's just I don't really care for In the End as much as the rest of the album. I get it, but it's also not a bad song. To me, it's not a bad song. It's just I don't care for as much as the other stuff. So if it was a bad song, then maybe I could knock. If it was a bad song to me, maybe I could knock the album down a few notches. But can't. Everything that Dookie encompassed with the band when they did it, and then everything that kicked off with Woodstock '94, and the appearances it did on Conan O'Brien and Jay Leno and David Letterman. All those performances too says a lot about where they had started and where they were going with how they were playing. Because, and it's not to discredit their musicianship now, but when you watch those old videos, you know, because they, you know, you see like just every time they played one of those songs, it was just like in your face, aggressive. They didn't let up, and they were kind of a little obnoxious too, how they played or how they acted during that time. Because I've heard stories about them being kind of little asses at times with people, but I mean, everybody handles their fame differently. But I think they were respectful to some extent to people. But I've always heard stories that they were kind of asses. And then also, if you look at them how they were at that time, you look at them now, it's like completely different types of people to an extent. How they interview people, how they just talk to people, how they are on stage. I think with Dookie and I think Insomniac was the result of it. I don't think they were prepared for how many fans they were going to get and how much the album was going to sell and how much they were going to be in every store and how much the media was going to want a piece of them. And I think it took its toll with Insomniac, and then also the backlash and stuff. I don't think, and you know, as Trey said on the Behind the Music, they were talking about on a major label. He's like, we knew we were going to get a lot of shit, but I don't think they knew the severity of how bad it was going to be. It was almost like the more popular they got with the public, the more hated they got in the punk community kind of thing, if you want to call it that, or the more people really had a problem with what they were doing, even though they're just playing music. And it wasn't like, well, you know, I take that back, because the one thing I've noticed too about the Green Day albums too, especially with Dookie, Insomniac, and Nimrod in particular, is that when I listen to 1039 and Kerplunk, we can see Billy becoming a better songwriter by each album. But I notice for Kerplunk and Dookie, there's a huge, like, sharp right turn in the driveway to making to the lyricism of those albums. Kerplunk seemed more, it had its moments of little darkness, but it was more so just, you know, it's just songs and songs about life and the opposite sex and just anything that's going on in your life. It wasn't too abrasive with that. Whereas Dookie was like, you know, it was a totally different direction. Like with Kerplunk, 2000 Light Years is about that's the first song. It's about his wife or his future wife. But Burnout, I Declare I Don't Care No More. It totally starts out to where it's like, it's not. This isn't going to be, I guess you could say, a happy view on life, and then having a blast is, you know, might possibly going to shoot up a place, and chump is how you're being treated or how you view others and such. And then Long View, you know, it just took a sharp turn with the lyric. To me, it felt like the lyrics got dark. In comparison Dookie to Kerplunk, the lyrics got extremely darker. And then comparison Dookie to Insomniac, the lyrics got extremely darker. And Nimrod to Insomniac, the lyrics of the dark tone of the lyrics start to let up a little bit with Nimrod and Insomniac. But from Kerplunk to Insomniac, lyrics just got darker and darker and darker. It didn't let up for a while. So, you know, with that being said, for Green Day, you know, I'm not gonna say if you don't know the band, this is the album to listen to. I don't want to say that. I will just say that this is the album that put them on the map with the mainstream. This is the album that everybody tends to know if they're going to listen to them. This is the album they always go to. However, I would say it's one of the top albums. I would say check them out if you're going to listen to it. And it doesn't let up, but it's not as abrasive as Insomniac, and it doesn't take leaps yet like Nimrod. But it's just a good, fun punk record, and it's a memorable one too, because there's so many songs on there that were just like, you know, they were hits and stuff, and they had their own thing going on, their own correlation. So with that, you know, we'll cue the music.
Sometimes I give myself the